all these polls are starting grids based on recruiting and based on returning lettermen, not taking into account schedules whatsoever. Because if you did take into account schedules at all, you wouldn't have Alabama and LSU right there together. You wouldn't have Michigan and Ohio State right there together. It's like there's no thought process in terms of how season's going to play out. Whereas, you can say that there's pitfalls with mine. You may not like my Tulane choice or my K-State choice at 7, but at least I'm giving some thought to it. Look at sandwich games. Look at where these games are going to be played. I actually think, Ohio State could win the national title. They could, but they might not beat Notre Dame at Notre Dame. It's all going to come down to Michigan and Ohio State, regardless of what happens with Notre Dame, as it relates to which one of those teams out of the Big Ten is going to make the 14 playoff.
Yeah, and Timmy B, I will say that's one of the reasons I kind of like your methodology of when you release, your teams, you're saying what's going to happen at the end of the year. Like with us, we release our preseason top 25. Those are really the top 25 teams the way we see them stack up, kind of, because we're going to make our individual predictions next week. So, Monday we're going to start with ACC and go forward. That's why I do like that. The methodology, the way you do it, preseason polls basically are pointless. But I did want to point out with ours, we if we were predicting where they were going to end up, then I think obviously schedule matters a ton more. But if I'm going to sit here and I'm with you, ours was very different than what came out. And look, it's fun. It's a great talking point. But look, LSU does play Florida State week 1. We had LSU 3, FSU 4. There's going to be one loss. Obviously, there you can't tie in college football.
Well, that makes more sense than LSU 3 and Alabama 4.
Yeah.
For sure. Alabama 3.
Yeah, without a doubt.
You know what I mean?
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's why I like your methodology better. What was your? I want to ask you, what was your biggest problem? And we can say between both, because they're basically the same thing. All they did was switch Alabama and Ohio State. Look at it. Look how crazy this is, really. Same number 1, same number 2. You just switch 3 and 4, same number 5, same number 6, same number 7, same number 8, same number 9. You switch 10 and 11. It's the same poll. It's like the same thing. It's the same picture, The Office.
Right. Yeah. And then here's the rhetoric that you hear as the season gets going. The committee will say, we don't even look at that. The hell you don't. Yeah. Who doesn't look at it? The networks, we're guilty too. We play along with this game. We have for years. We build the Texas-Alabama game as this vaunted battle between number whatever and number whatever. We promote our games based on where teams are ranked in the preseason and where they're ranked from week to week until the committee does start weighing in, in late October, early November. And they'll tell you that, these ratings don't matter. The hell they don't. They do matter. And that's my problem with it. They're really effectively starting grids for brand names. Like, you're never going to see Utah ranked ahead of USC in a preseason poll. And yet they owned USC last year and they beat them the year before that. Yeah. You won't see in most polls, not all, but you won't see LSU ranked ahead of Alabama in most polls because, Alabama's Alabama. They sell more preseason magazines in Alabama than they do in Louisiana. It's the same thing. Texas will always be preseason ranked ahead of whoever I believe will win the Big 12. It could be Baylor. It could be TCU. It could be Kansas State. And those teams have fared very well against Texas. They're going to be, why? Brand names. And that's why with the 4-team format and the CFP, it actually, I think it did more harm than it did good to college football because all the 4-team playoff did was prove how exclusivity and branding matters all the more in college football. And the condescending nature of even those that cover the sport, not just the fans, but those that cover the sport, is that, this is the way, they look better in warm-ups than the other team does. We're going to rank them higher. That stuff's got to stop. It just does. And it'll only stop when we go to a 12-team, thankfully, 12-team playoff the following year.
Only one group of 5 team in each poll, too, Dan.
Yeah.
Let's
it's
expand
just pathetic. That is so pathetic. And
expand
by the way, if South Alabama beats Tulane out of the gates, and they might, good for them. I'm happy for the Jaguars. They're good.
That's the alma mater.
But don't tell me a group of 5 team doesn't belong. I got some of that yesterday on Twitter. The hell with you. Those guys put on their jockstrap just like everybody else. And Tulane earned the right with the returning people they've got and the schedule they played. And they're going to get Ole Miss. We'll find out when they go on the road to Oxford if they've got what I think they've got. Go ahead. I'm sorry, David.
No, I'm sitting up.
Love it, Timmy. Come on, lame, but I got
middle of the week. Let's get over the hump here. I love it.
Yeah,
love you.
Keep it going here with Utah. I mean, back-to-back Pac-12 champions. Returned so much on both sides of the ball, including their quarterback Cam Rising. Same coach. Ranked 14 here. Two Pac-12 teams ranked ahead of them, 8 spots behind USC and 4 spots behind Washington. Forget the poll for a minute because we know how you feel about that. But is Utah your favorite to repeat or three-peat as conference champions in the Pac-12?
No, I like Oregon. I think Oregon is better than Utah this year. Now, if I'm wrong, it'll be because Utah proves me wrong, and I think they are the champions then, because there's no doubt that I would favor them in a matchup against USC again. I mean, and again, and again, and again. Why is USC where they are? I mean, why? Because they're USC. That's it. Oregon's got, I think, an improving defense. They got the AC Earl of college football, Bo Nix, returning for his 12th season, I think, in college football at quarterback. I mean, I love what they do offensively. Now, they lost their offensive coordinator, the young fellow that's gone to Arizona State, and he's great. Billy, he's awesome. He did a great job at Auburn, as you guys know. He will be Lanning knows what he's doing. I was very impressed. The mistakes that Oregon makes and some of the games that they dropped recently since he's gotten there have been a byproduct of aggression on his part. But he's got chutzpah to him. Lanning he's a get it done kind of young coach who understands the history of the game. I think the time spent with Kirby and the way Georgia put together that program has really served him well. And I think it shows. I think it really shows up here. And I think it'll prove beyond a shadow of a doubt, what the additions of, DeBoer's job at Washington, Lanning's job at Oregon, those are quality teams now that the Big Ten picked up to raise the bar. And this is another thing that I wanted to shut down since you guys got me in the mood, fired me up a little bit. When I hear this from these SEC elitists, okay, well, let's just talk about how they've got a big league. Yeah, and it's geographically, it's national, but there are a lot of bad teams in the Big Ten. Really? Okay. Well, let's go to Rutgers. We'll start there. Rutgers is the first. And listen, Schiano's second act has not been what the first act has been. It's a little bit different when you're in that league versus what the old Big East used to be. But, it's not easy to go on the road against anybody in that league. Mm-hmm. You're going to tell me Wisconsin is an easy out? You're going to tell me Purdue now is an easy out after what Braum did to build that program up? And Walters is going to do a great job. He was a shining star as a defensive coach for Brett Bielema of Illinois. I think Illinois is going to be a breakthrough team. They were a year ago. I think they continue that momentum this year. I'm sick and tired of hearing the good old boy network. Well, we're the SEC. We got nothing in the Big Ten. The hell they don't have nothing. They got plenty in the Big Ten. And Michigan and Ohio State will have to earn being in that position in November because, the Michigan schedule non-conference sucks out loud, no more so than Georgia's does. But when you go on the road in the Big Ten, it's not easy, and it's going to get a hell of a lot harder now with those 4 teams out of the West Coast that are making their move into the Big Ten. So, just bag some of that old, tired, fatigued conversation from down south. It's a joke.
We love all our sponsors. They're like children. We love them equally. But I got to tell you, Good Ranchers, guys, I know we get on here, we gas up a lot and it's true, all right? We know how hot it is in Nashville, all right? We know how bad inflation is. They got the price lock guarantee over there at Good Ranchers. They got the new pork box, which is fantastic. But what my wife has done with the chicken Dude, we had peach preserved barbecue chicken in the crock pot. We had chicken parmesan she made in the crock pot. And last night, she made what was called, for lack of a better term, cracked chicken.
Cracked chicken?
Yes. Okay, it's chicken breast from Good Ranchers.
You don't have to explain. I'll try it.
Yeah. Cream cheese, okay? The ranch powder that you turn into the dip. It's got bacon in it, jalapeno. You put it in the crock pot, and you just let it just turn into magma or whatever happens in the crock pot. And I ate it last night, and it is just, then she made me start bench cut. Literally sitting
She made you start bench cut?
She made me start bench cut.
Why?
Barbecue chicken, cracked chicken, and chicken parmesan. I don't know. And I told her it's not fair and I don't want to do it. And then she said, yes, you are. And you know what? You know what I said? I had to choose.
And what
I know it started.
Let me guess what did he start?
Chicken parm.
No.
You
Disgusting.
started the cracked chicken.
Out.
I started barbecue chicken.
Disgraceful.
The peach preserved barbecue chicken, I benched the chicken parm, and I had to cut the cracked chicken. I had to cut crack out.
I tell you what.
You're a quitter.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm telling you guys, they're the only meat company that locks in your price. They got a price lock guarantee, and when you subscribe to Good Ranchers, you get that guaranteed price and a trusted 100% American source for your favorite cuts. That's beef, chicken, pork. Lock in that price today. Visit goodranchers.com. Use our code BOOSTER, BOOSTER, for $30 off any box. Get the butcher's box or the new pork box, which you got, David. I can't wait to hear about.
It's on its way.
That's promo code BOOSTER, BOOSTER, at goodranchers.com. Goodranchers.com. American meat delivered.
I remember we went on the road at Michigan and played Illinois at night in Champaign with the Juice Williams years, and we barely won by like 3 or something like that.
Juice was cold.
My offensive coordinator looked at me and said, hey, if you win by 1 point in this league, be thankful and get on the bus.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if a league will benefit more from getting rid of divisions than the Big Ten. Like, just because the West and the East is so lopsided, and we've seen that with different conferences, but now there's going to be no divisions. I think it's going to be, it helps out Penn State more than anybody, in my opinion, when you look at what the absolute murderers row in the Big Ten East.
Well, think about this, though, fellas. Now with those additions of Oregon and Washington, it'll be interesting to see if Commissioner Petitti doesn't review the process with the divisions. And let me tell you why. I think that in that league right now, particularly with the travel issues that we have with the 4 teams on the West Coast, Pacific Northwest, and now the City of Angels being involved, I know they're going to probably do it with the non-revenue producing sports. And I'm not sure how I feel about it. I'm not in that business. I'm not in the business of scheduling. I'd love to be a fly on the wall when they start doing that kind of thing. I know they had in mind when they did their most recent schedule, before they knew about Oregon and Washington, that they wanted to make sure everybody played everybody over a 2-year period somewhere, which I get. But now it'll be interesting to see if they stay with that. In that league, they may, and they may because everybody else is going away from divisions too. But I think that the likelihood of maybe going back to divisions could possibly be there. And think about this: if you're trying to get into a playoff with 12 teams, or later with 16 teams, and you've got these trophy games, the Floyd of Rosedale, the battle for the axe, which in the past years, David, that game is a game that Spencer and I've done. And Minnesota and Wisconsin have been on the cusp of getting, into the championship game based on who won that game. Last year it was Iowa, who got a gift with their defense again and pulled off a win against Minnesota in their final home game to get in a position to go. And then they lost the last week.
Yeah.
And it was Purdue that got in the Big Ten title. I just think that a lot of those games now are going to be so much more important because you're fighting not to get into the top 4, but into the top 12. And those teams consistently go into those games at maybe 8-2 or 8-2 or 7-3. And if that team has 3 losses and they get a big win against a team ranked above them, you could slide into that 12 hole or maybe the 16 hole.
For sure.
If we go to that. And I do think we are definitely going to go to 16 in 2026, the first year of the new television deal for the CFP.
I love it. To hell with him, Timmy. I love when you wake up and choose violence, baby. I love it. All right, we got a question in here. Daily Wire try. Hey, Bradley Cogdill wants to know, in your expert opinion, all right, do you think Spencer Rattler will take the next step this season, or do you think he will continue the inconsistency?
Well, I think he has a very good chance of taking the next step. You know, I picked Kentucky to finish second in the East this year, in the SEC East. I did that based on the consistency of defense and the ability to kind of know who they are. But the team that has had the biggest wins, and the team that has a coach that's clearly been able to light a fire under his program and win in games where he's an underdog, has been Shane Beamer. They are an emotional football team with good people at the skill positions. I think their defense lacks. That's why I didn't pick them to finish second. And the schedule for South Carolina is tough. I mean, it's really tough. But Rattler, in my opinion, found his way a year ago, and I think we're seeing the player that we always thought he could become the second half of last season. If he stays healthy, I might be wrong, and it could be South Carolina that finishes second in the East. I don't think Tennessee will, and I don't think I really don't think the other teams that are you think about maybe vying for that second hole in the East have what either Kentucky has in consistency or South Carolina has in bid play capability. All right. Those are the two strengths of those two teams.
Definitely. All right, Timmy, we appreciate you, buddy. We got phone calls. We're about to probably get Justine, you better be ready on the mute button in there after we released that top 25 yesterday. It's going to be interesting. But Timmy B, it's always so great to have you on here, man. So excited to watch you during the year.
Hey.
We're going to try and get you on as much as possible. But we know you're like Carmen Sandiego, man. We never know where in the world you're going to be each week.
Speaking of Ohio U and Carmen Sandiego in San Diego next Saturday.
Oh, I can't wait.
At 7 o'clock Eastern time on FS1.
Snapdragon, baby.
It was so nice to just talk ball with you guys.
I know,
today,
right?
And not have to defend our sport from these guys that are claiming it's going into the dungeon. College football is just oh my God, it's the ruins of college football. It'll never stop. Just stop.
Yeah.
Well, college football's future has never been brighter.
Yep, go hide in your panic room. Timmy B, bringing the heat as usual, my friend. Great talking to you, brother. Hey, YouTube, appreciate you guys. We are so close to 100,000 subs. And if you like and subscribe to our channel and you comment your fantasy football team name under the video titled Daily Wire Live Fantasy Draft Year 2, you could be in a fantasy league with Ben Shapiro and all of us. So make sure you subscribe.